All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a recent Gartner market guide to really break down a piece of tech that's become, well, absolutely essential for modern cybersecurity. We're talking about Cloud Web Application and API Protection, or WAAP for short. Let's dive in. So just stop and think about it for a second. Your company's website, your mobile app, all those internal tools, every single one runs on applications and the APIs that stitch them all together. This is the engine of your business, right? But here's the thing, that complete reliance creates a huge and often pretty invisible target for attackers. And that's really the heart of the problem. The very things that are driving your growth, the things that let you innovate, they're also the #1 target for cyber attacks. The whole game has completely changed. We're fighting on a new digital battlefield where your most important assets are always in the crosshairs, and that means you need a totally modern kind of defense. Okay, so how do you actually protect these things? Well, that's exactly where Cloud WAAP comes into the picture. You can think of it as the purpose-built shield for this new reality, and it's delivered as a cloud service, so it can protect your apps no matter where they happen to live. Let's just look at Gartner's official definition for a moment. The most important word on this entire slide is consolidated. See, instead of you having to juggle a whole bunch of different security tools, a Cloud WAAP platform brings together multiple critical security functions into one single unified service. So how does this actually get delivered? Well, this slide shows the two main flavors of WAAP. You've got your standalone service over here, but the more common approach, the one you see on the right, is to integrate WAAP right into a content delivery network, a CDN. And that combination is just so powerful because you're not only getting security, you're also making your apps faster and more resilient at the same time. Now, to be considered a true Cloud WAAP solution, a product can't just be a one-trick pony. According to Gartner, it absolutely has to be built on 4 distinct mandatory pillars of protection. So let's break down what those are. Think of your application like a giant, high-tech skyscraper. A Cloud WAAP is like having one incredibly smart security guard at the main entrance. And as you can see here, that one guard has 4 very specific, very different jobs. And these aren't optional add-ons, They're the absolute core of what makes the service work. First up is the Web Application Firewall, the WAF. This is your front door guard. Its whole job is to inspect everybody and everything trying to get in, and it's checking for all the well-known threats and attack patterns like the ones on that infamous OWASP top 10 list. It's your essential first line of defense. Okay, next, that same guard is also your crowd controller. This is DDoS, or Distributed Denial of Service Mitigation. Its job is to stop a malicious flood of traffic. Literally, picture a mob trying to storm the front doors, from overwhelming your app and taking your business offline. This is all about making sure you stay up and running. The guard's third job? Being an expert imposter spotter. This is bot management. Now, not all automation is bad, but a huge chunk of it is. This pillar's job is to tell the difference between a helpful Google bot and a malicious one that's trying to scrape your data, hijack customer accounts, or buy up all your inventory. And finally, and this is arguably the most important one today, our guard has to protect the executive elevator. This is API protection. APIs are like these data superhighways, carrying all the sensitive information between your applications. Securing these pathways from being exploited, well, it's just completely non-negotiable for any real WAAP solution. Okay, so that's the what. We know what a WAAP is, but why is it becoming so incredibly important right now? Well, Gartner points to 3 huge trends that are really pushing WAAP adoption into high gear. The biggest driver, by far, is the explosion of APIs. I mean, this quote from the report really says it all. Securing APIs is now the main reason companies are even looking for a WAAP. As our apps get more and more connected, those little API connections have become the new favorite doorway for attackers. And this is a trend that's just picking up speed. Gartner is predicting that by 2027, an amazing 70% of what are now separate standalone API security tools will just be folded directly into WAF platforms. It's pretty clear the whole market is moving toward this kind of integrated protection. The second major trend is what you could call the bot arms race. You know those simple "I'm not a robot" checkboxes? They just don't cut it anymore. The bad bots have gotten so sophisticated, they can mimic human behavior and just waltz right past those old school defenses. And that means you need a much, much smarter, AI-driven way to manage them. And you don't have to take my word for it. The numbers really tell the story. Back in 2022, less than 10% of organizations were even looking for advanced bot mitigation. But Gartner predicts that by 2027, that number is going to more than quadruple to over 40%. The demand for these smarter defenses is just exploding. And driver number 3 is the regulatory squeeze. On one side, you have rules like PCI DSS for credit cards, which now require very specific security controls. And on the other, you have data sovereignty laws in places like the EU and the Middle East that say your data has to be stored locally. This puts a ton of pressure on companies to find WAAP vendors that have a global presence so they can stay compliant. So, with all these things pushing the market, where is this technology actually headed? Well, the future of WAAP is all about getting smarter and way more connected to the rest of your security setup. A huge piece of that future is generative AI, and it's a real double-edged sword. Security vendors are using AI to build way smarter defenses, which is great, but at the same time, attackers are using it to create brand new, sophisticated attacks. So your WAAP needs to do two things. It has to use AI for defense, but it also has to be able to protect your own AI applications from attack. And this right here, this really shows you the bigger picture. WASP is a critical piece of the security puzzle, no doubt. But for way too long, all our security tools have been stuck in their own little silos. A WASP might see an attack happening in real time, but it has no idea there's a vulnerability in the source code that allowed it. That kind of disconnect creates some really dangerous blind spots. The future is all about breaking down those silos. For a WAAP to be truly effective, it has to talk to your other security tools, especially things like cloud-native application protection platforms, or CNAPPs. See, those tools scan for problems before an app is even live. When you connect the two, you create this incredible feedback loop. You can link a real-time attack the WAAP just saw directly to the piece of code that's vulnerable, and that helps your teams fix what actually matters way faster. So, to bring it all home, here are the key takeaways from Gartner's guide. First, make API security your absolute top priority. Second, really dig into a vendor's AI and machine learning capabilities. Third, plan for integration from day one. Don't treat it like an afterthought. And finally, make sure the solution can actually meet your specific needs for compliance and data sovereignty. And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This whole digital battlefield is changing constantly. Our applications are getting more complex, and the threats against them are getting more complex right alongside them every single day. So the real question you have to ask is your security strategy evolving fast enough to actually keep up?